Well, good evening and welcome to the Oak Point Nature Preserve in Plano, Texas. Tonight's exercise is a field test of the KLARUS XT12GT Pro. Now, KLARUS sent me an email, asked for a review. I think you know my standard response. If it is a review you want, a review you shall have. So I want to thank KLARUS for sending me the light and making this video possible. Now, a lot of people may say, hey, I don't recognize that name, KLARUS. Although you may have been exposed to the brand without realizing it. If you saw the Tom Cruise movie, The Mummy, then you have seen a KLARUS light in action. But what do we have here? Quite simply, this is a thrower. I did about a 2-hour set of exercises with this before filming tonight's evaluation, and my initial thoughts were most likely use cases are possibly hunting and then law enforcement, search and rescue. Now, my personal use case is wilderness search and rescue. But no matter how you use the light, the name of the game is the same. It's all about illumination at distance. This is not the light that I buy if I want to search for lost keys around my truck at the campground. KLARUS does have a very good reputation for making high quality lights at reasonable prices. I do like the construction, the fit, the finish, although I do wish this texturing were a little bit more aggressive, especially if I were operating with gloves, but then I say that about most every light. What I really like about this is just the feel, the way it feels and lays in my hand, even though this is larger than an average tack light, whether it's underhand or overhand grip, it just feels great. This is the charging port cover. At first, I thought this was a rigid latch, but when you open it, you realize it's got flex, but it's very thick and it has almost no lateral play. So after you finish charging, remove the cable, it almost snaps back into place, light pressure, it locks in. I can move my thumb very aggressively around there. It's not coming back open. Very impressive strike bezel, and then you have the dual tail cap controls. Excellent tactile feel on both of these. In fact, you can see the gap right there. Very easy light to operate using gloves. Now, on the subject of operation, there are 2 output modes and 4 basic lighting levels per mode. The modes are tactical and outdoor. The basic output levels, low, medium, high, turbo. Strobe is available in both, and outdoor adds SOS. Think of outdoor as that very general purpose, lots of options for using the light type of mode. Tactical is very minimalist. It is a turbo first mode. So in the next chapter, I'm going to briefly, and I do mean briefly, discuss tactical mode of operation. And then after that, we will get to what everybody is really here for in the first place, and that is how does the light perform under realistic conditions. Tactical is very simple, and it really is all about turbo. This is your on-off momentary switch. Okay, half press gives you momentary turbo. Click to turn on. Once you turn on, the cycle in tactical is from turbo to high to medium to low. There is no memory, so notice if I turn it off, back on, we are in turbo. The other thing I'll point out is that while the feel here is excellent and there is some protection here against accidental, you can see it doesn't take a lot of pressure to activate that momentary. There is no electronic lockout. If the light is off, you click this switch briefly, that gives you strobe. If you hold it for more than 2 seconds, release, it still strobes, click off. The light is on. Again, to strobe, but you notice there's just a bit of a delay there. I held it for more than 2 seconds, and so I have to click again. That's pretty much it. That's tactical mode. Enough of me babbling on. It's time for the light to get out and speak for itself. Well, it's not dark yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. I like to look at light outputs in a variety of circumstances. And on the subject of circumstances, it is very hazy tonight. We also have storms moving through the area, lots of low clouds. That reflects the light back down from the surrounding city. So it actually looks like a very bright moonlit night tonight, even though the moon is not out. And we are in medium right now. Let me pan around. For the listed lumen output, that's actually pretty impressive. Drop it down 1 to low. And I think I can show you here that there is some spill. And one of the things I like to look at with a light that has a very aggressive strike bezel is whether or not it has any effect on the spill pattern, which it does not here. So let's run the cycle back around. There's everyone's favorite, turbo. You can really see the haze in the air. Okay, right about here we're a good 150 yards. I can pick up something reflective. I can tell that there's a tree line out there, but other than picking up something slightly reflective, I cannot get any detail. Over 200, 250 through that pocket, drop down to high, swing back around. Think you might have seen the lightning. Might be a short night tonight. All right, that's our first look at the light. So this is something I do a lot, creek searches. I'm in high, which seems to be about the right output level, not too bright to wash out anything in the hot spot. I can see down into the water. I have some spill, but not as much as I generally like. This is something that I would probably, if I were doing this for real, I would augment this with a flood from my headlamp. But at that point, it's almost like having combined spot and flood from my headlamp. The difference is I'm just saving headlamp battery, but this shows you what it looks like. Time to move on. Okay, I've moved out into a park area in turbo, and I'm putting light on a tree that's a good 375 from where I am. I can definitely see that the tree is there, how tall it is, and so forth, but I can't get like any significant detail. There's just too much haze, too much particulates. I'm also noticing that as my hands sweat, it's getting rather difficult to hold the light. I would probably have to transition to gloves, just to deal with the sweat. That's why I tend to like very aggressive texturing on a light, and I'm not having any problem with heat right now. Here's a last look at medium. This is the entrance to two separate trails, a much darker, more contained environment than what I've been working in. So in the right environment, this is a fairly powerful mode. If you're in law enforcement, photonic barriers are always something you have to deal with. We're looking at tree line in excess of 160 yards, parking lot lights to the left, and a street with its associated lighting further off to my left. Another parking lot, no lights on, in high, looking back into the trees. That's what this type of light tends to excel at. Very slow movement, spot illumination. If you're in law enforcement, private security, you would have to think about this as being your go-to tack or duty light. Generally speaking, you want a bit more field of view and wider spill. Your conditions and use cases may vary, but just wanted you to see a good example. You can look deep into the trees from well over 35 yards in high output here. One more look in medium and low. Down to low. And time to head back to the parking lot. So this path leads back up to the parking lot. Looking at a building, we have some light in the background on turbo. Drop down to high. I'll move around here while I go ahead and wrap up. Let's look out over the creek here one more time. This gives you a very good indication of the hot spot versus spill, and that is of course always what you need to trade off when you're looking at the mix of lumens versus candela. For me personally, now this is still in high, getting excellent downrange visibility there now that we're in a much darker area. I would probably not want to use this as the range of starts as a protracted handheld asset, especially with the humidity the way it is tonight. I'm just dripping with sweat. I would probably use this light as a mounted helmet or shoulder mounted resource. I'm going to test that more, but for now I need to get back to the truck before the rain and the lightning and thunder catch up with me. I hope you saw enough tonight to make a decision one way or the other. I don't make recommendations. I don't push models. As I've said many times, I'm just the guy who runs the test. You make the decision. I am going to do some more testing for my own purposes. If you'd like to see additional tests, leave a comment. And as always, until the next review, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching the video.